Welcome to Open Source. I'm Lead Alsakov, the co-host, and I'm very excited to have an awesome panel this week. Like all the other panels, we're also very good, but this one is quite an interesting one. So let's say a quick round of highs. Rory, do you want to say hi? Rob, do you want to say hi?
Hello, hello, hello.
Ben? That's only you allowed to do that.
Hey.
Hey, Ben. Emanuelle, you want to say hi? Yay. And Mark, you want to say hi?
Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
Cool, cool. So we've got some brilliant guests, and I'd like for each one of you to give us an introduction. So, Rob, we know you a little bit from, publications, perhaps. Do you want to give us a few words about yourself?
Sure, Wally. So it's great to be on and great to be with all of the panelists here today. My name is Rob Galbraith. I'm the author of The End of Insurance as We Know It, which is done phenomenally well, definitely beyond my wildest dreams. Got published last year, and we're coming upon 4,000 copies sold globally. And I'm very excited that the first foreign language translation has actually been completed. And you'll never guess, but it's actually in Farsi. So two gentlemen in Iran have worked diligently, and the second foreign language version is also on track, and that will be, again, you'll never guess, Mongolian. So there's a team in Mongolia that is actively translating it. So yeah, it's just so wonderful to be with all of you here today.
So the future of insurance is going to come out of Mongolia and Iran. That's awesome. Could you tell us, why did you decide to join our community?
Yeah, well, so I've been a huge fan of Insureblocks for years, and you and I had the fortune of meeting in London last fall when such meetings seem to be pedestrian but are now extra special, given the current global pandemic, particularly here in the US where I'm based. We're, I think, allowed to go to 4 countries globally now with our US passport. So, but it's something I write about in the book, but I've just never felt really on top of. There's so many sharp people in this space, including many of the folks on this call. And so, I've listened to the Insureblocks podcast. I've read as much as I can, multiple books, but I think engaging with the community, engaging with some of the concepts, the ideas, it's something you really need to be immersed in. And unfortunately in my life, I touch on it, know enough to be dangerous, but nothing more. And so being part of the community allows me to be able to interact and get that depth of knowledge that I can't just get from articles, books, etc.
Awesome, and thank you very much. Yes, I do enjoy our Lebanese meal we had in South Ken last year. Emanuelle, can you give us an introduction on yourself and why did you decide to join our community? Oh, we can't hear you. Let me
oh, sorry.
There you
My
go.
name is Emanuelle. Most people call me Em. I work in insurance. I'm passionate about innovation and distributed ledgers and the blockchain more in general. All practical implications and such political implications as well. And I joined the Insureblocks community as Rob. I was a big fan of the podcast. And the reason why the community appealed me, it was because I'm a big believer in breaking the silos and allowing people to cross-pollinate ideas. And the fact that the community was not just focused on insurance, that was very appealing for me. So I was trying to look at like-minded people, but from other industries, maybe exchange some ideas and see if what's happening around in other spaces, maybe look at opportunities for collaboration as well.
Excellent. Well, with those kind words, I can't be angry with you anymore for leaving the UK for Italy. Ben, could you give us an introduction on yourself and tell us, why have you joined our community?
Yeah, I'm Ben Davis. I'm the insurance lead for emerging technology at a company called Digital Risks. We are an insurtech startup ourselves. Just completed our Series A back in February and have had some really nice growth, specifically in emerging risks like the open banking side of things that's happening in the UK, and blockchain and digital asset business as well. I joined the Insureblocks community because Waleed and I have been friends for for a while. But also, I'm really kind of dedicated into a different aspect of blockchain. I'm more on the kind of insuring of companies in the blockchain space, and have been really excited and passionate about ensuring these really innovative companies that I think are going to bring along kind of the next big revolution in how we do business. So yeah, very excited to be here.
Excellent. We're very happy to have you with us. So thank you for that. Rory, how about you kick things off and tell us what is it in the news that you found interesting?
Thanks, Walid. Sure. Last week we had an excellent open source, I felt, with Mugdha Relan, and we talked about India. But afterwards we were asking her, what could we do better? And she said, be more concrete, or words to that effect. That's at least how I took what she was saying. So when we dug into it, what she meant was show us what is the power of that digitalization in insurance, reinsurance. Show us the use cases, list them, and obviously address blockchain and insurance, but all types of digitalization. So we're reacting to that feedback and compiling an interactive mind map, bringing together all of our Insureblocks experience and asking our members to contribute to that too. So that's my like this week, the can-do attitude of the Insureblocks team, us. So please watch out for the this mind map, and please contribute to it when it comes out. It'll be all the better for your contribution. So something concrete as requested, and thanks very much for the nudge, Mugdha.
Thank you. No, thank you very much indeed, Mugdha. Emanuelle, how about we start with you now? Tell us, what is it in the news that you found interesting?
News from this morning, so quite fresh.
Indeed.
I looked at, so apparently Ethereum has now surpassed blockchain in terms of being the most used distributed ledger technology out there, which is quite significant. Clearly, Ethereum still has a lot of challenges, but they have a solid roadmap going forward. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see how this technology is continuing to mature and evolve over time and getting so much traction. Clearly it's not the only technology out there. Maybe it's not the right one for the business environment, but clearly it's not something you can ignore. It's constantly, steadily growing in significance and importance.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because in comparison to Bitcoin, with Ethereum, you can build, DAOs, distributed autonomous organizations, which gives, a lot more interest for the wider market. So thank you for that. Rob, tell us, what is it in the news that you found interesting?
Yeah, so this week in the Insurtech world in the United States, Hippo Insurance announced their Series E funding raise of $150 million, which, I'd love to have just 1 or 2 million of those. And so I'm fortunate enough to know a few of the folks over there. I think they're a great company. And so what kind of caught my eye just about that is it also put them at a $1.5 billion valuation, and they are on track to have an IPO in 2021. This, of course, follows the recent IPO of Lemonade, and we know lots of people either love Lemonade or hate Lemonade, but I think it's just further proof. And I think there's other insurtechs out there that are working quite diligently towards exits. And so you're just seeing a maturity in the space overall, and I think it's good news overall. You can obviously nitpick at each individual company, but I really think the folks at Hippo have done a great job. So it just kind of shows health and vibrance in the insurtech sector.
That's great. That's great. No, there's definitely been a lot of concern with the beginning of COVID-19 that the insurtech market, might get hit, quite harshly. So that's great news. Ben, tell us, what is it in the news that you found interesting?
Yeah, so I really found the news about the Twitter hacks really interesting. When I was reading it, I was just blown away that somebody could actually do that could actually happen still. And I was also blown away, the hackers have had to really have planned that very, very carefully. It would have taken a lot of time to get there. And I actually don't think they actually made that much money. I think they only got about 100 grand or something like that from the entire thing. And I was just thinking that, on one hand, you have to, hand it to these people that could get into an organization like Twitter. And I think actually, only getting 100 $100,000 US out of that in Bitcoin actually was, I think they probably would have been very disappointed with that. And, from being a broker, when we advise clients on cyber policies, a lot of them will think about, well, we outsource a lot to Amazon, and you kind of think about Amazon and Twitter and these big companies in that same kind of breath. But it just shows that these companies are still vulnerable. We're still only as secure as the newest employee, effectively in these companies. And so it just went to show that no one's invulnerable, I think, in this industry in today's day and age. So I thought that was very interesting.
Indeed, I read somewhere about the number of times Amazon gets attempted hacks on a daily basis. It's kind of crazy. Mark, tell us, what is it in the news that you found interesting, and also a little bit about your new virtual background.
So the background will link to the story, but before then, all I would do, because I think Rob was pretty modest, this was definitely one of my top books from last year. It's well thumbed and well edited. It's a great read, so I definitely recommend it for anybody to read. So my interesting thing is about Ant Group. So they are the online payment platform that runs Alibaba's e-commerce platform, and they launched another blockchain solution on Thursday, and they use a ton of different technologies. So they use AI, IoT, blockchain, secure computation. And this Ant-Chain solution, they've already used over 50 different use cases in a range of industries. So IT, leasing, shipping, insurance, cross-border remittances, a ton of stuff. And they've got a combination of hardware, software on this. So they've got a new workstation that's similar to a laptop, but again, the security and speed. So they say it's a tenth of the time to set it up, 30% faster. But the thing that I found most interesting when we look at Ant-Chain, because we talk about blockchain's ability to scale, and I know the devil will be in the detail, but currently 100 million digital assets, so that's things like transaction records, copyright, property registration, ownership certificates, are loaded onto Ant-Chain on average every day. And part of this is around Alibaba. So Alibaba, the Visa network processes so many transactions a second. Alibaba does something like 10 times that every second, and it's phenomenal. So it's a really interesting one. And for me, I like the fact that it's picking away at the myths that we can't scale.
Wow. No, that's amazing, because I know Visa processes at its peak up to 75,000 transactions per second. So 10 times that, that's just, mind-blogging. Rory, back to you. Could you tell us, what is it in the news that made you wonder?
So Ben mentioned the Twitter hacks, and my wonder is also around big tech, but from a slightly different angle. I'm wondering about anti-vaxxers and life and health insurance coverage in countries where that's relevant. So the context is a topic we've talked about a lot here on Insureblocks, which is big tech, governance, disinformation. We've seen and talked about on a number of occasions where Twitter, Facebook and co haven't done enough to curb fake news generally, but about the virus in particular. So now, at the pre-phase 2 of the virus, Oxford University have promising results on a vaccine. So I wonder what happens if the user engagement model of the big tech companies continually fails to stem the tide of disinformation, and as a result, millions of people refuse to take a vaccine. Should that have an effect on the health coverage or even the life policies of people who've refused to be vaccinated because of what they've heard on the internet? So that's my wonder of the week. We did a little poll on this topic in the community. So far, 9 people have voted. 7 people voted that insurers should be able to limit coverage. 2 expressed the view that it should be the other way, that they shouldn't. One of them made a mistake, I was informed. So actually it's quite clear what the result is. It's 8 versus 1. There are legal restrictions in some countries, and there's no reason anti-vaxxers couldn't form some kind of group and potentially mutualize the risk. So it's not that they necessarily will be uninsured, but my wonder of the week is, can mainstream insurers put in an exclusion or limit liability for that?
Very good point. And just to add a little bit of humor, I wonder if we can also apply that for mobile phone insurance, if you're burning a 5G mast or not. So, Rob, tell me, what is it in the news that made you wonder? Ooh, I think we may have lost Rob. Or he's got a perfect frozen face at the moment.
Right. Yes,
Still in a state of wonder. Oh, there you are.
Am I back? Okay.
You're back.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yes, the internet is slow from across the pond. So this week, saw an article that came across, or a report that came across from PwC, talking about kind of in this economic downturn, an uptick in M&A activity. So we're already starting to see examples of that, where bigger, stronger companies are gobbling up smaller, weaker ones at kind of bargain basement valuations, right? Or kind of looking to pick over, right, and kind of acquire and get even bigger and even stronger. And then they're also exploring new business models. And this is the part that I thought was interesting. They said typically in past recessions, the M&A happens first, and then kind of an assessment of, okay, now that we've been opportunistic and we've kind of, enhanced our business, let's re-examine our business model. What does the economy look like going forward as we start recovering and getting out of the recession? They said what's unusual about this particular recession, right, that's kind of obviously been caused by the pandemic, is that change in business models is happening simultaneously with the M&A activity, not as a kind of afterwards. And so I kind of wonder, what that portends for blockchain. Obviously, there's been a lot of POCs, pilots, kicking the tires, right, exploration of use cases. But, are we going to see where it becomes more fundamental to the insurance industry and businesses? What's going to come out in terms of really compelling use cases over the next 3 to 5 years in the insurance space?
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Ben, I believe you've got some news really made you wonder related to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Rob and I are kind of on the same page with a lot of what we've been speaking about today, actually. I think the news for me this week was 2 insurtechs, at least in that are well known in London here in the UK. They are basically they're no more, and so it's interesting. If we've kind of now seen this cycle where insurtech has now kind of been happening for about five or 6 years, and we're starting to see real players kind of emerge and find real use cases for themselves. An insurtech I really like is Flock. They've done an incredible job in carving out this really very great niche for themselves, and they've been able to do it phenomenally well. We actually partner with Flock to do to help their customers. And so what we're starting to see, to Rob's point, are the winners really in the last 5 years starting to kind of emerge and kind of go from strength to strength. We're still looking in insurtech for that real kind of breakaway insurtech that kind of gains market share rapidly, just like a Monzo has done with open banking. But I'm really excited because I think we're getting close to that time where you get these really customer-centric insurtechs that are going to start, doing some really amazing things at larger scale. So that's what I'm wondering and excited about.
Great, thank you. And you just said the key words, customer-centric. Very, very, very important. Emanuelle, can you tell us what is it in you that made you wonder?
So something I found this week. It's not new news, actually. It's dates back probably last year, but I found it this week. So I'm a project manager by trade, and in project management you have this thing called the project management constraint triangle, or variations of that. And you have you got costs, scope, and quality, and time. And they say you can only have 2 out of the 3. I can't have it all. And then I found on the news someone was quoting Vitalik Buterin from Ethereum saying, in the blockchain world, the distributed ledger world, you have something similar, which is called the Scalability Trilemma. So you have, security, decentralization, and scalability on the plate, and you can only have 2 out of the 3. So it was interesting to see this parallel between my project management world and the blockchain distributed ledger world. The wonder is that really the case? Can you only have 2 out of the 3? Clearly, Vitaly is a very smart guy, but I'm wondering, as I see a lot of companies trying to compromise and maybe find a good balance out of the 3.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Now, Mark, last but not least, tell us, what is it in news that made you wonder, and that new background that makes me want to go dancing? Tell me.
Yeah, so this is around a survey this week from eMusic. So they are an online streaming platform, blockchain enabled. And it's basically, they surveyed their service users to say, would you consider using cryptocurrency if you felt that more of the royalties would go to the artists? And they found that 65% of the respondents said, yes, we would, despite the fact that only 8% of them had ever used Bitcoin or any other crypto in the past. And then what was really interesting was 40% of people surveyed, they reckon, overestimate the amount of royalties that they believe the artists get. So 87% of them felt that a fair share would be a higher sum, and most people felt, it's at least 50%. And the amazing thing is, so the music streaming industry last year boosted music revenues by 20 billion. But the thing that blew me away was Soundcharts, one of the music websites, estimates that artists are only paid, and here we go, 0.00318 per stream on Spotify, right? So 99.9 is going elsewhere.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, so, and part of this is about shortening the chain of mediation. So there's a huge amount of inefficiency, lots of parties involved in that. And it got me wondering about, because it's a classic example, this is trying to change the chain of mediation. And it doesn't have to mean disintermediating if we're thinking about an industry that we all love and are involved in, but maybe you can start to change the flow and reward. So what if other industries, including insurance, started to respond in that way and be that customer driven? That could be one intermediary, other parties, it could be the producers. What might that do to change the way we operate?
Very good point. That's staggering, that number. Well, gentlemen, I'm afraid that we've come to a conclusion of our show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. And you, our dear viewers, thank you very much for following the open source episode. If you'd like to join the Insureblocks insurance community and interact with some of our innovators within this community, you're more than welcome to. And I also would love to have you on our show. We've got some great episodes coming in the forthcoming weeks. But for now, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch you next week. Thanks again, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.